Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, and it is brought to you by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season long at Wild Wild West, Tropicana, and Harrah's Resort Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. There's Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast as the Eagles getting ready to take on Andy Reid's Chiefs. And the Andy Reid Chiefs coming in losers of 2 straight. Not an optimal situation for Nick Sirianni's bunch, coming off kind of a butt kicking on Monday night. This is probably not the week they would pick to play the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, would it be, Adam?
Yeah, but it always comes down to matchups. That's all the extraneous stuff won't matter. It's going to come down to how they match up. The Eagles do not match up well at all, Mike, against the Chiefs. Particularly that zone defense. The Eagles play more zone defense by far than any other NFL team. They only play man about 9% of the time, which is unheard of in today's NFL, which means you're going to see a lot of Travis Kelce underneath, a lot of Tyreek Hill crossing routes. They're going to give that up. The Eagles try not to give anything deep. So unless Jonathan Gannon completely changes his defense, that's what you're going to get on Sunday.
Yeah, let's look at the Eagles' tape on the defensive side of the ball. Some of the things you heard this week in terms of the lack of the pre-snap disguise. They talked about it a lot on the broadcast, especially if you're watching the Manning cast. I mean, those two were having a field day watching Jonathan Gannon's defense. What did you hear this week about the way pre-snap the Eagles' defense looked?
All right, so, Mike, let's get started on defense. Save, occasional pressure. They didn't pressure Dak Prescott a lot. I mean, he didn't have to throw a lot because their run defense was awful. They gave up 77 yards to 2 running backs in the first quarter. You know it was going to be a long night. But the run fits were very poor. They got blown off the ball, which is something I'd heard last night. Was just one person who had graded the Eagles tape said it's just he hadn't seen anything like this in a long time with an Eagles defense. It was embarrassing. They got outcoached. They got outplayed. The scheme was poor. The run fits were poor. The linebackers were terrible in the run game because they weren't protected. You also made mistakes on the run game. And the lack of pre-snap disguise, it was ridiculous. I don't quite understand this because the thing that we're learning, Mike, about this defense is, yes, they're playing. We had reported first back in February they're going to be a zone defense and play a front where it's read and react. That's totally what they do. But we're not getting what we were told. The other part what we're not getting is this pre-snap disguise, not nearly as much as we thought. There was next to nothing in this game. I don't understand it. It makes you wonder about Patrick Mahomes. What is going to be Jonathan Gannon's approach in this game? Because the approach was abominably bad in this past game.
It feels like, last year everybody went to the linebackers. It felt like this game, a lot of people looked at the linebackers, including the Dallas Cowboys, and they said, if you're going to play those safeties back, we're going to challenge those 2 guys, and they were not up for the challenge. So the linebackers eaten up in the run game. Yeah,
badly. And also in the pass game, the other thing is because you're playing 2 safeties so deep. I had a joke with Mosher on a show that dropped on Wednesday. It's like, if they're going to keep them so deep, why don't they bring Chris Maragos back to play 30 yards back? If you remember, Chris Maragos, when he was only a special teamer, but one season because they lost a bunch of safeties, he had to play safety. So what they did is they just kept him back, all the way back like he was returning a kick. It was or a punt. It was pretty funny. But, yeah, look, Gannon's going to have to change things up here. You have the talents you have at linebacker. They're not bringing anyone back, and you just have to live with it. That's kind of where they are, Mike, right now on defense.
Defensive line, how did what was the read of how they handled it without Brandon Graham? What did they do to replace Graham? What did they kind of do to fill his snaps? How did they go about that?
It's really weird. First of all, there's things that are happening I don't understand. You extend Josh Sweat's contract, but you don't start him. You start Milton Williams. Now, Waves explained to me was Milton Williams is a little bit more stout. I know he doesn't have Josh Sweat's arm length. He's about 3.5 inches short per arm, but he's wider. Okay, but that didn't work. Josh Sweat is a veteran player now. By the way, he's not a bad run defender. That, in fact, his first year with the Eagles, he was actually only playing on base downs. They didn't even use him as a pass rusher because they didn't cut. They were trying to figure out what he was when they got him at 18. It's really weird. So basically, Ryan Kerrigan was not even at a tackle. He was playing a ton of snaps. because of Graham's absence, he's not really playing stand-up linebacker anymore. He's playing basically with his hand down, a little bit standing up, but it's just not working. I don't know how they're going to get to Patrick Mahomes. To Mahomes is it. By the way, Mahomes is playing well, but not great. He's not playing his usual elite level. He's a little bit indecisive with the football. So I'll be interested to see what Gadden's approach is going to be. He's got the 3 DNs, and that's really it. And then Fletcher Cox said after the game that he wasn't feeling well. That might help explain why their run defense was so bad. But Cox apparently lost a bunch of weight, and he needs to get his strength back.
So the defense obviously has their handful this week. They got a Tampa Bay team that, is coming off the 2 losses. They're going to look to exploit this team all over the place. You just kind of outlined. Offensively, though, a lot of things to get into. Let's start at the top.
Take an hour.
Right. Let's start at the top of the tape list with Jalen Hurts struggled. Why did he struggle in this game? Now, if you look at the completion and the yards, you would say, okay, he played pretty well. But what's the tape say?
No, it's funny because I'm watching the game, right? And I'm like, okay, he's not playing well, but he's not playing that badly. I've always said this, never, ever evaluate a quarterback through TV tape. It's got to be through the All-22, which you can see at NFL.com. They do have it up there, the end zone shot, the silence shot. So very indecisive with the football, bailed from the pocket way too early. This is an issue for him. Save the Arizona game where he played really well. Hurts just played like a guy that had not played a lot at the NFL level. This is only his 7th start. These are the kind of things young quarterbacks do. Unfortunately, it's not acceptable. I'm just telling you what happened. Because there's some people who are not happy with us saying we were trying to make excuses for him. We weren't. We're just explaining to you how NFL people look at these situations.
All right.
What happened was my people, when we dropped that show, said that we were making excuses for Hurts. We weren't. We're explaining to you that he played poorly. We're sugarcoating it, but the tape showed exactly what he was doing. He bailed from the pocket. His accuracy was off. In fact, accuracy is not just his percentage. It's the pass placement. Are you throwing the pass target the ball to make them go get it? You do not want to slow these receivers and tight ends on the route. And he did that way too much in this game.
I want to get your thoughts on what people said about the run game, because Nick Sirianni saying, well, RPOs, that's our run game. So when the ends comes in, the run gets taken away. So why the lack of runs? Is he right?
He's not right. There were opportunities to run the football. They decided not to do it. And here's the problem with all of that. You could put Hurts under center. There's nothing wrong with doing it. I understand they're running more of a college offense. That's what someone with the Niners told me. That was their tape study, that they clearly are running a college offense. Okay, but it doesn't mean you can't put him under center, because right now Hurts was so bad in this game. You need to help him. And I'm not a run game guy. I'm a pass game guy, particularly in the first half, because analytics will tell you the more you throw in the first half, the better off you are. But you know what? Analytics does not account to how the quarterback is playing. Hurts did not play well. Throw the numbers out. The tape showed he played poorly. What Sirianni should have done is hand off the ball. It could have been a 60-40 split in the first half. I would have been fine with that. That's about the league average. Between 57 and 60% pass, I'm fine with that. But it was embarrassing. Miles Sanders, 2 carries in the entire game. By the way, it was only 20-7 at halftime. Sirianni's way off his game. He just didn't have a good game. Sirianni's got to look at himself. He didn't do a good job, and he didn't help his quarterback, who struggled mightily.
And it was a 2-score game in the third quarter, too. I know it felt like it was different, but they were within 2 scores in that third quarter. That being said, I feel like we keep asking, why aren't the tight ends involved? They are your 2 veteran guys. They are your dependable guys. The wide receivers, tight ends, but the tight ends specifically seems like there is room there. They got yards. The middle is open. They're not going to them.
Yeah, and it's been more of a receiver-centric offense. That's something we didn't know coming into the season. The crazy thing is, the word Jeff Mosher and I got was that this is going to be a tight end-centric team, that these coaches raved when they first got there about Goddard specifically. And he looked good. Look, the 30-yard catch and run was terrific. I don't understand it. I know that the game plan got away from Sirianni and the quarterback struggled and all that, but Goddard's a major mismatch, and that's just bad coaching. The offensive structure absolutely has to be in question. Again, I don't know what they're doing. It's an offense, Mike. We could call it a college offense, but okay, you can do that. But the structure of it is poor, and it's not working. And Sirianni's got to start with himself, and he needs some help from his coaches.
Well, it doesn't help that he's going to be down possibly 3 offensive linemen this week. Mailata, we're not sure of, obviously, yet, but I would imagine he's not going to play. You know your left guard's out. You know your right guard's out. So how does that affect it affected play calling last year with all the injuries on the offensive line. How will the offensive line affect them this week?
It's interesting with Nate Herbig starting now. I know he's not an athlete. I get it. Dickerson, by the way, Dickerson was not bad last week. He was kind of up and down, but he wasn't bad. Their line was surprisingly held up. See, I had thought watching the game that maybe the offensive line didn't play well. That's why Hurts was moving so much, but that had nothing to do with it. No, they were okay. Dickerson and Herbig, you would expect Dickerson in his second start this week to be better. The Chiefs' front is good, not great. The Chiefs are bad against the run. That's been a real problem for them. If this is not a Miles Sanders game, I literally will throw my hands up and say I have no idea what they're doing. That's kind of where I'm at with this offense.
All right. The penalties are obviously a problem. Now, there is some video of Sirianni saying it's always him in regards to Barnett getting called.
Yeah.
He tried to downplay it. Well, it's not, it's not. How do you discipline these guys? And people say, well, this is an undisciplined team. How do you fix an undisciplined team?
Well, first of all, let's start with Barnett. What you can do is you could take him off the field, not play him in the first quarter. The problem is because you're down Brandon Graham, who's your best run defensive end for the season, you're down in bodies. So, you could play Teron Jackson if you want. That's really not what you want to do, but you could discipline him that way. But there's the coaches will tell you there's a fine line between disciplining a player and hurting your football team. And it's really, really difficult. It's really difficult. It's not good. Not good at all. You can play Jernard Avery at the end if you want to, but in the end, it's just not going to work. And he's going to have to play. I personally would sit him out the first quarter because I know coaches would have done that to players they needed to discipline.
Well, obviously, his penalties come in some big spots. That was a 3rd down and 8. He gets the penalty. It goes to 3rd and 3. They end up getting the 3rd down conversion on. It was an 8-yard play they got, and then they ended up scoring a touchdown on that drive. Who knows? They were kind of, hanging on there, and that penalty kind of made you feel like here we go again. Andy Reid's in town, and obviously this is a tough matchup here. So what is something, if Philadelphia is to win this game, Adam, what is something that they can do to make it interesting?
Run the ball. And again, to be clear, I don't like running the football. I've been brainwashed by my friend Joe Banner when we worked at ESPN, and he's right. He's definitely right. But the problem is, what Joe and I do not agree on one point. You have to look at who your quarterback is. If this was an accomplished quarterback 3 or 4 years in the league, and he had a couple bad games, keep throwing the football. I'm good with it. This is not the case. This is not the case. And run the football with Sanders. The other thing is, where's the screen game with Kenny Gainwell? He had one. Yep. We need to see that. That's the coach's problem. The head coach, Sirianni, who calls the plays, has got to help his quarterback. And then the other thing is Gannon must do a better job with his scheme. What the hell was that in that last game?
That was terrible. I said same thing you said. I said Prescott undressed him the other night. He was having a field day with them. But just what you said, Adam, the game plan in week 1, they accentuated the positives of his personnel. Bubble screens, got the ball to guys in space. Where has that been? It needs to be back this Sunday. You can hear the game right here live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Adam. Good stuff, man.
Thanks, man. See you.
It's an ugly tape to watch, but he broke it down for you pretty good right there for Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Don't forget, Football at 4 each week or each day here on the Sports Bash is brought to you by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City.